And cultural ecology, and I'll continue that. See, is it visible? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, we are discussing about the different uh, stages we discussed, and then we are discussing about the economic system in which I was telling about the different uh, marketing strategies were there. That was I was telling reciprocity, redistribution, all these things. Yeah? See what exactly happened when the society got larger. But I was telling that when the population got increased, and increasing the size of the society result in the increasing the social structure. So which in turn produces the differences in power and roles of the members. Because when the society got increased and the social structure got increased, then the society becomes a little bit complex. So then what exactly happened? So when the population rise, then their competition rised within themselves, who will hold the power. And everybody felt that I should have certain kind of roles and responsibility in the society as a member of the society. Through that, the competition and all created a complexity. Different members of the groups of members also start to play different and specialized role. Then slowly what happened? When all these things happen, then the society impose certain kind of restriction that you as a group of people has to do these activities as. So then this slowly the division of labor started, and then society gave a kind of some group becomes specialized, so then specialized role also started. So there is a kind of movement from military to an industrial society. Then in course of time what happened? Then we moved towards from a military society to an industrial society. At the beginning, society was characterized by the compulsory cooperation of its members, the military society, where usually we used to tell it is a military society where everybody used to cooperate each other, because the society was more or less as a homogeneous society. The people used to cooperate each other. But when the industrial society entered in the process of evolution, and here the cooperation becomes very voluntary. Means here either somebody can cooperate or won't cooperate, completely depends upon his will. The highest order is called the ethical state, where the common resources may be used to perfect the human character. Here what happened? The state tried to play a major role, where these common resources, the state tried to impose certain kind of restriction so that the common resources may be perfectly used by all human beings, and with lots of laws and all that, as it is a property of the state, it should be properly used by everybody. It is not that somebody else will grab the resources. The structural parts of the society, like family, the work function, and it becomes an interdependently to help the society function. Therefore, the social structure work together to preserve the society. Even though we entered into an industrial society, but there are different kinds of structural parts of this society, just like an example of family where every members try to cooperate each other to fulfill the interest of the family. Then uh, then the question of production comes, because where we entered into this agricultural society or industrial society, then we have a quest for the production. This quest to meet the basic need is the central to understanding the social life, and is as today true today as it was in a prehistory. Because you see, if you look into that, this process is more or less similar in all the stages of the life, whether it is prehistoric period or historic period or today's contemporary period. So this everybody was having certain quest to meet the basic needs, and the society was trying to fulfill the needs of its members. The quest to meet the basic needs were man's primary goal at the dawn of the race, and are still central when attempts are made to analyze the complexity of modern life. You see, we have to understand whether the life is becoming much more complex or not. And when we, in course of time, see why all these things are coming, because this becomes the culture of a community and the culture of a society, and that pattern, how it is influencing the cultural ecology, how it is hampering to the environment, because you see, when the needs, then the pressure on the environment, the pressure on the natural resources, the pressure on the ecology is rising. So when the basic needs have to be met, this leads to the creation of new needs. See, when we try to meet the basic needs, see, as I have already told you, the competition is going on between the members in the society. So the new needs are also coming up. The man and the woman is a perpetually dissatisfied animals, because I have already told you it is very difficult to fulfill the human wants. Okay, because it is in economics we know that the human wants are unlimited. Men struggle against nature does not cease when basic needs are gratified. It is not that men stop his work and stop his needs towards the nature fulfill his needs, because I have already told you, I have already quoted you earlier the Mahatma and this view that nature has everything to meet of the needs of the public, but nature has nothing to meet the needs of the peoples. So in that sense, what exactly happened? This perhaps is the main reason for the ecological crisis we witness today as a result of industrialization, capitalism is rising. See, as discussed, ecology is the study of the interaction between the living things and their environment. Because when I was talking about ecology and all, you have to know that ecology is nothing but the study of the interaction between the living things and their environment, how the living things have an interaction with their environment. The cultural ecologists record other traditional and local knowledge that is valued to the wider world. The the traditional knowledge also helps the peoples, the local peoples, in valuing their local environment and meeting their requirements. The cultural ecology is generally included within the discipline of anthropology, the study of human beings. Generally, what exactly we do in the sense of cultural ecology, here we try to read as in mostly the interaction between the living beings, that is specifically in the humans, also will mostly focus, and their local environment. Anthropology includes the study of human biology, language, prehistory, religion, social structure, economics, evolution, and anything else that applies to the peoples. Because generally, do you know, I think all of you are aware that anthropology is nothing but the study of human beings as a whole. So when we are looking into the human being as a whole, we look into the biology, the language, the prehistory, the religion, the social structure, the economic evolution process, anything that is applies to the human beings, so that is applies to the people. Anthropologists generally concentrate their work on small scale cultures and tend to have considerable personal contact with the people of those cultures. We try to look into the relationship. Anthropologists traditionally hold a set of basic beliefs in their study of other culture. First, it is recognized that all cultures are at least a bit ethnocentric, that people believe their culture is superior to other, because generally what happened specifically in the part of all human beings, generally the human beings are more or less an ethnocentric, because everybody is having a feeling that my culture is great. Because please remember this terminology, ethnocentric means we have a tendency that my culture is superior than anybody's culture. Americans tend to view Ghana, America as being inferior, and whenever suppose even within the India, whenever we go to any state and we have a fighting for the food and all, then the respective state where we used to stay, they claim that my food is always great, and then other parts claims my food culture is excellent, the greater than you, and it is very good. So what I'm telling, this is a part of the human life to develop a sense of cultural ethnocentrism or ethnocentric views. The Germans have the same view on non-Germans, as do the Chinese of non-Chinese. Every country is having the same feeling. The basic conviction in anthropology is a cultural relativism, that cultures and cultural practice should not be judged See, anthropology always give emphasis on cultural relativism. They told that the culture and cultural practices should not be judged and should not be told mine is great and yours is inferior. So look into the cultural ecological theory. A theory is simply a world view. So it means whenever we are looking into the cultural ecology and from a certain theoretical perspective, we look into this world view of different groups. So how the local peoples, how the particular community looks to their environment, looks to their entire world, and what is their perception? Suppose if you ask the peoples, what is your perception to the nature? Some people claim that man controls nature. Some people claims that nature controls man. It is that particular worldviews. And wherever we look into the different kind of indigenous and local knowledges, we try to understand that how they observe, how they organize the things. Right? Means how they look at the world, how they look into the local culture, how they look into the local environment. Yet it attempts to account for a social structural its origin, its maintenance and the change, because whenever we look for the local environment we see three things. I try to explore how this culture is being originated and how this culture is being maintained, how this in relation to the local environment or local ecology, how the ecology and the culture of a particular area is originated, how both are interrelated and how they're trying to maintain both the culture and also the local ecology. Then the third thing we are looking into the what kind of changes come up both in the culture and in the ecology. If the changes come in the culture, what is the impact of ecology in the culture? And if there is an impact has come up in the ecology, so then how the culture has helped in adapting to the local ecology or the changing ecological system, and what is the role of culture in bringing such kind of change in the local ecology. So that is also highly important, because whenever we are telling that the ecological setup has been changed, then we have to look into that what exactly codes to see such kind of changes in the ecological setting. Sociocultural materialism. This section will examine the society through the prism of socio-cultural materialism. We'll look into that mostly the material aspect, material culture and all these things. Sociocultural materialism is a theory of sociocultural system. It is mostly the Marvin Harris has written about it. The various parts of the society are interrelated. The Marvin Harris was telling that in a society, the various parts of the societies are interrelated. It is not that the different parts of the societies are very independent and having no relation with each other. So, you see, when one part of the society changes, the other parts of the society must be uh, changed to cope with the changing condition. For example, an institution such as the family cannot be looked at in isolation from the economic, political, and religious institution of a society. Because you see, whenever we are looking into a particular aspect in the society, we should not look it in a complete isolation. Suppose I'm telling that when I'm looking into this kind of the family in relation to the local ecology or local environment, I cannot completely ignore the economic system of that society. I cannot ignore the political system of that society. I cannot ignore the religious institution of that society, because all these, the economic, political, religious institution are also linked to the family, which in totality helps in the betterment and better functioning of the society. When one part is changed, it has an impact on other part of the social system. Environmental based human societies. Viewing society as a system of interrelated parts is at the core of most social theory. Difference is in terms of organizing the principles. The way the society is organized to meet the needs of the population determines the rest of the system. See, if the society has well organized certain principles in maintaining the resources, then the society can well function. The society's economic requirement can be well met. The political organization of the society can be well maintain. Because see, everything depends upon how the society is being organized, how the society is following the rules and regulation. So that is highly important. Environmental constant. The chief among these constants is the availability of natural resources. See, what are the environmental constants that influence the society? The major is the availability of natural resources. If the natural resources is very rare, if the natural resources are not plentifully available, if there is a huge constraint in the availability of natural resources, then definitely there will be a competition among the peoples to get the resources. So then there will be always a conflict among the peoples for the maintaining of the resources, for which what will happen, they will get into the different kind of conflicts. Then we have to look into that infrastructural facilities, the principal interface between a sociocultural system and its environment, and how this infrastructure is being developed, and how this infrastructure is being altered with the changing of the time, with the changing of the requirement, with the changing of the needs. Because you see, what happened? We develop certain kind of infrastructure which has always a pressure on the local environment or local ecology. And why we develop such an infrastructure? Because to meet the demands of the people. See, we develop the dam, we develop the industry, we develop the road, we developed other kind of infrastructure because to meet the demands of the people. It is through the infrastructure that society manipulates in the environment by modifying the amount and type of resources it needs. What exactly does society do? Society always manipulates the infrastructure, society always manipulates the local environment, and society always try to modify the kind of local environment for what? To meet the requirement, to meet the needs of the local community. And what they do, they always try to modify the local resources to meet the needs of the public. Then consist mostly, if you look at this infrastructure, mostly the mode of production and reproduction. Means what exactly, what kind of approach, what kind of mechanism, what kind of techniques, what kind of tools, what kind of regulations the society is mostly following in the context of mode of production and reproduction, because that is highly essential while we are looking into the infrastructural aspects. The mode of production and reproduction are attempt to strike a balance between the population and the consumption energy from a finite environment. Because you see, when we are trying to look at it, we have to look into this, the capacity of a particular environment in the sense of production and its reproductive capability. So what we are doing, we are trying to strike a balance between the population and their consumption. Because if the population has having huge demand for the consumption, then so if the society, suppose look into, suppose you just compare a particular environment and a tribal society or a rural society, and you just compare a particular environment, the similar kind of environment, with having highly organized society. The urban peoples are having highly demands, they have lots of if you look into their consumption pattern is quite high in comparison to the rural and tribal peoples. Their needs are quite diversified. So there will be always a kind of a different kind of pressure on the local environment. So mode of production, this consists of behavior aimed at satisfying the requirement for subsistence, technology of subsistence, technological environmental relationship. But here, when we are telling the mode of production, mostly we are focusing on what kind of technology we have adopted, whether we have adopted the technology to meet the subsistence requirement, or we have tried to meet the ever increasing demands. The mode of production is the way most anthropologists and sociologists classify the society. This is because it's generally recognized as one of the most powerful determinant of the rest of the sociocultural system. If you look at this hunting and gathering society, their mode of production was different. If you look at the horticulture society, their mode of production was different. If you look at this pastoralist society, the agrarian society, and industrial society, their mode of production was quite different. See, consisting of behaviors aimed at controlling the destructive increases and decreases in the population size. Suppose we are a hunting and gathering society and we are running out of food. What can we do? It is often this environmental infrastructural foundation that the remaining parts of the social system are based on. So what exactly we have to do? We have to understand the social system, we have to understand their demography, we have to understand their mating pattern, we have to understand their fertility, we have to understand their natality, mortality, we have to understand the nurturance of the infants, we have to understand the medicine, we have to understand the contraception, abortion, infanticide. So means once, unless and until we are having a complete understanding about the social system, we cannot understand the relationship with the local ecology. We have to understand the social structure, refers to the human groups and organization, their primary groups, secondary groups. Primary group consists of small groups like the family, regulatory production, exchange, consumption within the domestic setting, normally the small, intimate and multiple rules. Then family, community, some voluntary groups we have to understand. Then secondary organizations. We have to understand these when we are telling secondary organizations, the impersonal organizations such as the governments and the industry which regulate the production system, exchange system, the government, the military police, corporations, education, media, service and professional organization, welfare organizations, then bureaucratic system. The curious phenomenon over the course of social evolution, primary group relations, increasing the division level, we have to understand all this bureaucratic system. Then elite, how this society is being developed in elite system, hierarchies among the society, the stratification system, the psychological system, all this thing. Then superstructure consists of two parts, the cultural superstructure, mental superstructure, includes the recreation activities, art, sports, empirical knowledge, folklore, art, music, dance, then mental superstructure, the values, emotion, traits. So we have to understand all these aspects. Any doubt till now? Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Huh.
Sir,
Huh.
the mode of infrastructure, all these things are how can it related to ecology?
Mode of?
Mode of infrastructure.
Mode of infrastructure. Huh.
Yes, sir. Sir, the relationship between mode of infrastructure and ecology, sir. I cannot get it.
See, mode of infrastructure means the what kind of mechanism you are developing in the sense of developing the infrastructure. Because you see, suppose we are cutting the trees for the road project. We are cutting the trees for the suppose for developing an industry. And at the same time, if you are now we are using high technology in transplanting those trees, we are taking trees from one place to another place. And then what we are doing, we are also trying to maintain a kind of system through that this means what the technology we are adopting, which will maintain a proper balance in the society. So that we have to be very much careful. So that's what I'm telling, that mode of infrastructure. What kind of mechanism you are adopting for the infrastructural development? Anybody else?
Okay, sir.
Anything? Okay, then we'll continue. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Suppose you see, when we're telling about this infrastructural development, superstructure, and I was telling about this psychological, this, then I was mostly the mental superstructure, cultural superstructure. And you see, when we are telling mental superstructure, the Max Weber said that there are four basic motivators for the human behavior. One is actual behavior, and motivated by the by its combinations. You see, like value-oriented behavior, rational action is in the relation to a value. Example, attending college, suppose, because you value So that's why you feel that, okay, I should go to the class, I should attend the class because I learned something. Doing the right thing out of the religious or philosophical ideas or of right and wrong. Here you are not getting into any philosophical ideas, you are not getting into any religious ideas. So here you feel that this is the needed, this because you value the life of learning something. Then the rational action is in relation to the value. Attending college because you value that life of the mind, doing the right things out of the religious and philosophical ideas of doing the right and wrongs. Then affective and emotional action you are following. So you are doing your anger and joy serves no rational purpose. You're expressing your feelings, attending the college for your good time, or because your significant other attendees. Hey, because you are attending because to know something, you are attending because you will have a good time to learn something. Then sometimes what happens? We are being dictated and guided by our custom and habits. Example, sign of the cross, facing front in an elevator, not talking at movies, attending college because her mother attended. So all these are traditional behavior. While somebody is coming doing pranam or doing namaskar, whatever, all these things are traditional behavior. So while we are dealing with the environment, while you say that, why I'm telling this, how the society is highly value oriented. If the society is culturally rich, they will have always have a kind of attendance. They will always have a kind of attention to the conservation and preservation of the local society, local culture, and local environment. Because it depends upon how the community is behaving. Then rational guiding behavior, rational action in relation to the goal. What is your goal? What rational action you are doing? It is not that uh, you have, suppose you are studying, it is not that, it is not rational, means you have to understand the rationality. Suppose the very truth, suppose somebody is attending the class and if you tell that no, my, it is a traditional value that my mother used to attend the class, so for which I am attending the class. No, the rationality, you are studying or attending the class to get the good mark, to get the good grade, through that you can get a good job, you can get a good placement. That is exactly the main intention. Attend the college to get a good job is the main intention. It is the main thrust, it is the rationale of your intention. Then we ever noticed a curious phenomenon that increasing the dominance. Generally, what happens? This approach is mostly dominating the today's philosophy, ideas, and all. The major principle of sociocultural materialism, the mode of production and reproduction, determines the primary and secondary group structure. You see, if the mode of production is, suppose if you look into, when the technology was not much developed, the society was more close, the society was more intact because everybody was depending on each other. The family relation was quite intact. If you look into, when the technology in the agriculture was not so developed, so during the time, the family was mostly the joint in the nature because they need more labor, they need more investment than they used to. They have a societal feelings. They used to maintain the, because agriculture was the only source of income. So the land was the major source of power for which they always maintain the jointness. But if you look into the mode of production and reproduction determines, so which because here you see when the technology becomes highly advanced, then the most of the households they adopted different kind of technology for cultivation and all. Then agriculture becomes highly modernized. There, the people's dependence on other got reduced, for which slowly the society leads to the nuclear war. Then the rationale behind giving the infrastructure infrastructure such as priority rest upon the fact that it is through infrastructural practices that society adopts to its environment. Then because we feel that if we will develop lots of infrastructure, then the society will adapt to the local environment. It is through the infrastructure that society survive. So since these infrastructural practices are essential for life itself, all widespread structural and superstructural pattern must be compatible with them. So then intensification, world population and its industrial infrastructure are growing at an exceptional rate. We have to understand, otherwise what will happen? The societal devastation will happen. The bureaucratization, the intensification of the infrastructure causes the growth of secondary organization at the expense of primary groups. The primary group is breaking down because if you intensify of the infrastructure, if we develop lots of infrastructure, then what is happening? The other groups are rising up. The very kind of opportunistic groups are rising up. The primary group is collapsing. You know, everything should be highly rationalized, because whenever we are dealing any, then we have to understand the role of elites. Because it is not that we have to, it is not the simple calculation of the greatest goods for the greatest number of people to account for socio-cultural change. Many changes are more satisfying to some members of society than to others. Because whenever you see, when any industry is coming, why the local people protest? Because their interest is being ignored. But at the same time, the government is meeting the needs of somebody. So that's why we always put a question: the development for whom and development for what? You see, we always tell that development is for the nation's interest. So that means the interest of some particular group of people, might be light group of people. It is not in the interest of the common man or the group or the people who are living in that locality. So sociocultural materialism is in fundamental agreement with the Marx when he states the ideas of ruling class in each approach are ruling ideas, because the ruling class always impose their ideas. The amount of power and control exercised by elites varies across the societies and throughout the time. How much powerful they are, how much power they impose. So these are the things which is very understanding, because you see, I just tell you the some of the glimpse I told you, because you see, this is very because if you look at the culture and cultural ecology, these are very vast topic, and it includes so many aspects. Just to give a brief idea to all of you, I just covered all these aspects. So the main thrust, you can remember that the culture of a society is embodied with lots of rules, regulations, customary customs, philosophy, different ideas, and which includes the different kind of mechanism, technology, then lots of value system and all. So which influence the local ecology, and at the same time, when there is any kind of change in the local ecology, it also brings lots of change to the local culture. Because what I told you, when we are adopting the technology also to extract the resources, and when there is a resource crisis, again we are competing within each other. The society which was more or less homogeneous, which was more or less a cooperative society, is getting into the very much competition today. But now the primary group is breaking down, the different other groups are coming up in the society, because of when we went for lots of infrastructural development, which is hampering to the local environment, local ecology also, because it depends upon what kind of technology we are adopting, what kind of mechanism we are adopting in the sense of developing all this kind of infrastructural facilities. So any doubt, any question? So then tomorrow onwards, we'll shift to